Rank 3 Purgatory. A rank 3 Purgatory that I made both by using this Mystic Awakening gem here, and then using what I believe was a generic 2 to 3 gem as well. Because I love this character. I've been playing this character a lot since she was buffed. There's a very large showcase on my channel already of her as a max 6-star level, and now we get to do the whole thing again, but this time with a 7-star rank 3. And this video is going to be shorter than that one. It's going to have different content, some of the same content, but it's all going to be with a rank 3 Purgatory, which is definitely different than a 6-star, because the damage difference on this rank increase is pretty noticeable. We're going to start against Realm of Legends Winter Soldier here, and you can just see the basic Purgatory rotation, where you just kind of get to an SP2 and just drop it, and just keep dropping SP2s. As you get them, you want to be in that Demonic Rampage mode that you just get kind of by hitting the opponent, and just hit them. It's a really simple playstyle. One of her big strengths is the simplicity, and this is all you got to do. If you go to a special 3, you want to use your second medium, which is going to power drain yourself. And once you do that, then you're at 2 bars again, and you can just drop the SP2 that you probably wanted to drop the entire time. So, really nice little anti-Mystic Dispersion mechanic, you could almost call it, because if you accidentally go red like you do with a lot of Mystics, if we're being real, then that's your scapegoat. You just use the second medium, go down to 2 bars of power, and drop it that way. And now we're going to fight Captain Marvel. If you don't know, Purgatory ramps up a bunch of different abilities throughout the quest based on the opponents that she defeated. And in skills case, you're going to get a slow. Ignore me getting hit so much at the start of the fight. Yeah, that happened. In the skills case, you're going to be placing a slow on the opponent whenever a damage over time effect expires on the opponent, or is purified, I believe. So, we don't really need that in this fight because there's no unstoppable for us to worry about, but if we were going to fight Juggernaut on the next fight, then that would be pretty nice, you know. And then next up, we're going to be fighting Realm of Legends Wolverine, where we have all of the souls, and then you can see right here what they are. Tech is going to be Armor Break, Mutant is Power Steal, Mystic is Regen Unblock, Cosmic is Nullify, Skill is Slow, and then you just get all of these benefits just based off of different things that happen in the fight. Like Power Steal is after the opponent drops a special, Armor Break is when you cross a bar, stuff like that. So we just get to see a lot of strength from this Purgatory after we ramp up those souls to the quest. She is a questing champion at heart because of how much you rely on these souls. Eat an unblockable SP2, and then not an unblockable, but an SP1 regardless, and then lose a little bit of health, but it's okay. We drop an SP2 here, and then we're just going to do a bunch of nullifies, neutralize the opponent a lot, and then just go for another SP2, which is going to definitely finish the job. So there goes Realm of Legends Wolverine. Pretty fast. That was in 31 seconds, which is very nice. I do not have a lot of BG's fights, but we do have a couple, starting with this Deathless Thanos in the victory track of this current meta. I barely know how Deathless Thanos works, I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I know he has Unstoppable when you hit his block because of the counter punch. He's got a big Energize and he gains a bunch of buffs, which Purgatory can both nullify and neutralize. I think because of the fact this Thanos is awakened, he's got like extra ability accuracy or something on some of his abilities. Again, I genuinely don't know. But he's also tactic defense. So not only do we have to juggle the hazard shift because we're not poison immune, we're only incinerate immune, we also have to juggle tactic. So yeah, this becomes a very complicated fight. He's unstoppable here, and we just need to drop this SP2 after a power drain. I have a poison on me because hazard shift is kind of going to be like that sometimes. And then he's going to gain his protection at times, which is very annoying as well. But I do know on the SP2, you just need to try to figure out which one is the orange blast, and then go ahead and dex that one. And at this point, we're about to lose our Rampage, but I'm just going to drop it here, risk getting some poisons on me, which of course we did, but at least I get an SP2 off in Rampage. And this Thanos is going down slowly but surely. It's not the best looking fight, but it's okay, because of the fact that we're literally having to juggle Hazard Shift and Tactic at the same time. If these nodes aren't in play, I think Purgatory would be extremely, extremely good for Deathless Thanos. It's just a little bit rough in this case, because there's so much we have to just wait out, like all of the Hazard Shift and Tactic, like I've already mentioned. Now here he takes like no damage, because I believe at Sig 200 his protection just goes like Giga or something, but either way, we're going to drop another SP2, and that's going to be basically the end of the fight, because it does a lot of damage, and then the degen finishes him out. So not a great looking score, but again, I think she's going to be a very good counter for him in a more ideal scenario for her, because this is definitely not that. So now we're playing some power shield fights. First off, against this Guillotine. These are just a couple power shield fights I recorded from the last meta, so we're just going to see how well she does for them. Against Guillotine this meta, we have to push her to SP2s, otherwise we're just going to get power drained every time she drops an SP1, since that's the only way of accessing power in this entire fight, which is a little bit annoying, but that's just what kind of Guillotine was last time. And then here, that was a really weird spacing with her special, so a little annoying there, but it's whatever. Just got to push her to an SP2 again real quick, and then we have the armor break active, or no we don't, yes there we do. Once we get a bar of power we do. And then we just drop the SP2 here, and then it gets no crits, but it doesn't really matter. The degen's going to do plenty of damage, and then she goes down in 47 seconds, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to fight Bishop, who has a lot of energy resist, of course, but Purgatory is Incinerate immune, and she also is going to have a nice hitting degen on the SP2 as well. So even though we're doing energy damage and stuff, making Bishop go kind of aggro, I guess you could say, because of all of his extra prowess, it's okay. We don't really need to worry about the Incinerates. We're just going to take a little bit of block damage on his special one and just kind of have to deal with it. It's not a big deal. And then if I go for an SP1 of my own, I'm going to regen back some damage. I'm not exactly sure if I choose to do that. With Bishop's energy resist, it might not be worth it if I do. I don't remember what I pick, but we'll see. Probably gonna just go for 2 SP2s, and it looks like I'm going for an SP1 actually. If I can get some crits, which I do at the end, it actually gives me a pretty solid score, because we did regen a good bit back. A lot due to Power Shield, of course, but it's still pretty nice. Now we're going to show off this Cryo Versary quest when Purgatory got in the Glorious Guardians Crystal. Or not, it was like the boxes, you know what I mean. This quest was out, which is a pretty basic questing thing. There's no nodes, there's just a bunch of defenders with no nodes. And Purgatory was pretty fun for this just because of the whole questing scenario that she's good for. So I'm going to let these fights play out just so you can see how her souls ramp throughout the fight, and then be back for some more interesting content afterwards. Okay, this boss is in Act 9. It is Act 9.1.3. And basically, Purgatory, once she starts getting her neutralized up, we're going to be shutting down pretty much everything in this fight. There's going to be a node that's going to be giving me an armor when I parry. The neutralize is going to hit that. There's going to be a node that's giving me power steal when I activate my striker, which is going to be pretty nice in this fight. And then Gallan, considering the fact that he is on the final node of a quest, he's going to start with his 3 persistent charges. So he's going to gain an extra buff on his specials when he drops them, of course, which is going to be the True Sense, which is just going to give him more mass. But because of the fact that Purgatory is spamming specials so much, largely due to Mystic Dispersion and the node that gives me Power Steal on my Relic, we're going to be able to keep his mass low at the start of the fight and then just completely gone later in the fight once we get neutralized ramping up. So yeah, it gets pretty simple. There, it looks like we neutralized all of the buffs, and he's gonna go ahead and let me drop another SP2, and this is just the loop of the fight. We're just spamming SP2s, Mystic Dispersion is about to trigger again, and that's gonna push me very high up in power once again. I just keep power stealing with the Relic as well, which is super awesome, and Gallan's just going down slowly but surely, and that neutralize is just putting in so much work. Really, one of my favorite things about her kit is that neutralize, because it is very strong, and Gallan is just melting here. 22k medium, and he throws an SP1, no buffs of course, 2 more SP2s should do the trick, and then the power gain is just going like crazy. We unfortunately don't have any Mystic Dispersion to benefit from anymore, because we're just canceling all the buffs out. But it doesn't matter, this SP2 is going to finish the job, and then that Gallan went down super fast, and that was pretty nice. Now we're going to do some of the bosses in last month's Paragon Gauntlets, which I believe is this Maestro, and then the Isophene afterwards. We do have a Tech Soul ramped, so that's going to give me a little bit more damage for this fight via the armor breaks. The armor break might be my favorite soul on Purgatory, which is interesting because it's the tech one, so it's not even like the cosmic one, which you'd think she'd benefit from the most naturally. But I really like the tech one. I think those armor breaks go a long way in her damage, so it's super cool when you get to use them. And I don't even know what happened there, but we're dropping SP2. It does some pretty nice damage, and at this point the neutralize just keeps building. We just need to go for another SP2, and then Maestro is just dead, just like that. So then we move on to the Isophene, which is going to be an interesting fight. Basically, she's going to give me more special damage on a specific special, so she's going to call it out, and it's got Hurt Logger, so we don't want to use the same special twice in a row. It's got Powerful, so she cannot be subject to any forms of power control, really, which Purgatory doesn't have unless we get the Mutant Soul, which we did not, so it does not really matter here. We just need to ramp up our souls and then eventually just kill her. It's going to be pretty fast. There's a Heavy Baiter protection, too, and then I can just block some of that special because I have the Mystic Soul, which is going to give me some regen on the block, which is nice. And then it's just about killing her as fast as we can. We're getting an armor break right there, and then it looks like I'm going for a special 3, which is going to hopefully do some nice damage. And I believe it like does a crap ton of damage too, not even just nice damage. Like, we go for this SP3 here, and then she is just lights out, I believe. I don't even have the skip SP3 button active right now because I was turning it off for something else. And yeah, that's a very hard-hitting SP3. We got the Fury, the had armor breaks, we also had the extra special damage from the node, and it did 278,000 damage, which is pretty nice. So, now we're going to do some Alliance War content, starting with this Gore on node 19. Gore is a big threat on this node because once he starts gaining a bunch of regens, which is kind of at the start of the fight, because you just hit him and he gains a regen. Eventually, as the fight goes on, he's going to go unblockable, and once that happens, an unblockable Gore is not a good time, because his SP2 is pretty hard to dex. I can do it decently well, but there is at times where I will mess it up, and when he's gaining Furies on that attack, it's going to hurt. However, we're neutralizing a bunch of buffs, which not only includes the regen, it includes some of the buffs that would be on the SP2, some of the buffs that would be on his SP1, and as the fight goes on, as the neutralize get higher, the fight just gets controlled very well. Or we could just kill him like super fast like she's doing right here, and it doesn't matter. I don't know how I got hit by that SP1 there, but it didn't matter. He dies in 39 seconds. So that went pretty well. We have a couple more Alliance War fights. A lot of these defenders are just scattered around the random nodes. So instead of really talking about the fight, I'm talking about like the matchups. And we're going to be talking about Onslaught next. Onslaught, he just kind of doesn't really do anything on the nodes, but I'm going to show that Purgatory is pretty decent for Onslaught in general. There's a couple reasons. The first being the obvious one, she's not metal. So we can shrug Neros whenever we want. Also, she has 40% base energy resistance, which just makes the Neros and pretty much all of Onslaught's attacks hit a lot less hard, so that's really nice. We also have a really nice power steal after Onslaught's specials, which is going to give me a little bit of power gain and then prevent some of his as well, which sometimes isn't very potent. It just depends on how much power Onslaught had left at the end of his last special, because that's determining how much you actually steal. But it is very nice in general. The only thing I don't like about Purgatory for Onslaught is that you can't use your second medium to power drain if you actually need it, because you're going to place an Incinerate on him, and that's really bad. So, yeah. She's pretty good for Onslaught, something I do in BGs a good bit. I just did not have a great recording of it, so that was a joke. I actually did find some BG's fights literally the moment I finished voicing over that part. So I'm breaking up the war fights clip just to add these two defenders that I apparently took on stream. These fights did not go nearly as well as I was expecting, which might be why I didn't add them to this folder originally. However, they're still going to go decently, and the fact that this meta isn't very good for Purgatory, because of Mighty Charge removing the degeneration from SP2 and any other debuffs I have, it makes these fights actually a lot more annoying than I'd like them to be. But we can talk about the defender matchups in general, and then you can just see them a bit more in a different scenario. And of course, in this case, it's Onslaught with Mighty Charge, who is going to be shrugging the degen very often because he sucks. But either way, get a nice intercept there, and then we're going to go back in. Try to keep intercepting him, because I can't hit his block this meta either, which is also slowing us down. So, there we go, just get the SP1 dexes, take a little willpower healing. I just kept messing up my SP1 dexes for some reason. I don't know how, but I also don't know why I'm fishing so much for a light intercept instead of just baiting a heavy. So, whatever. I wish he just threw an SP1 there, because then the degen wouldn't fall off. Would have been pretty great, but it's okay. There was something interesting. Onslaught's Special 1 costs less power if he activated it when there was an organic magnetism on the opponent, which in this case that would be me. So, because of the fact that he dropped it when I had one, he had more power after he dropped the special, so I had more power to steal too. And then here he just takes forever to drop his SP2, which is super great, love to see it. And then he's gonna finally go down just like that. So, that fight went in 76 seconds. I swear I've done that in like 60 before or less. So, in a different meta where she's a bit more ideal to use on attack, then that also goes pretty well. Same deal for this Serpent here. She's a pretty good counter to Serpent in BGs. It's just this meta made it a lot more difficult. So I believe this fight takes a little while. Definitely not one of the fastest counters this meta, and in general, she does a pretty decent job of it though. Because once that neutralize just keeps ramping, then his power gain's getting stalled. Unfortunately, it means that his resistances are going to stack up a lot faster, but it's just kind of the trade-off. You're preventing the power gain for him having higher resistance and getting his Pierce and Furies and stuff up faster. That's just kind of the trade-off that Serpent kind of makes every character face, unless you're just spamming specials at an extremely fast amount, which Purgatory can do, just not that well in this scenario. So double medium there to power drain, drop the SP2 in the corner, and then he's back up to 4 charges, and now 5 again. He just gains his charges so fast, it's annoying, but you're just gonna have to deal with it. He did not gain his big power gain from the SP2, but he did gain one right after via just his natural timer, and then he loses another 2 charges there, but now he has the Pierce, so it's definitely feeling a bit worse. The Fear is a little annoying too, because we can't drop the SP2s just out of nowhere. We have to time them right, but that's okay. And then, as the neutralizes stack up, we hopefully are going to counter his death immunity, which it looks like we are not going to counter. That was a 45% chance of it triggering, so close to 50-50. Because 8 neutralizes is 80%, and then he has a 125% chance, so there was a 45% chance of the death immunity triggering at that time, and of course he rolls the heads on that coin, basically. But it's whatever, the fight lasted 94 seconds. I've done that fight with 6-star versus 6-star at like 59 seconds, so in a correct meta with better RNG, this fight goes very well. You might have already seen that video from me. But now we're fighting Nova, and she's decent for Nova because she nullifies a lot, but she's also kind of mediocre for Nova because he reduces the damage while I'm unblockable by a very large amount. I believe it's 70%, which carries over to the degen we're going to inflict on the SP2, which I really think is stupid. I don't know why that degen is hindered, like, whatever. It's annoying, but so yeah, her basic attacks end up doing like way more damage than anything else. So maybe I should just be spamming a special that isn't SP2. Maybe I should just be going for SP3s. I don't really know. Either way, this is just the tactic I went for, and as that neutralize goes up, like, Nova just can't do anything. That's kind of Nova when you're using a lot of Mystics, granted, but just a nice little example of Purgatory being used for Nova. And we got a little bit of regen back, not that much, but it's whatever. And then he goes down right there. One more defender in war, one more defender we really are just going to talk about the matchup for, and that is Dust. So, Dust is a pretty easy time for Purgatory for the most part. If you use your second medium to place the Incinerate, obviously that's going to get rid of the sand. Yeah, Dust is kind of just a skill check defender more than anything. So Purgatory just does as well as a lot of champs would, but she does kill things very fast, and I do think that is valuable for a lot of skill check defenders, is killing the defenders fast. So, yeah. We bait her SP2 here, which is definitely the special I prefer to bait from Dust. The Power Steal is preventing her from dropping specials as frequently as some other defenders would. It's still not like the most impactful thing, because as you saw there, like, it wasn't that big of a power drain, because it scales based off of how much power the opponent actually had. If you're fighting Dust on power efficiency, however, then it's going to feel very good, and it's going to be a really nice utility piece if you're fighting Dust on like power efficiency or anything that's going to give her power gain. So yeah, I do really like Purgatory's SP1 versus mutants for any mutants who are going to be on those nodes. So I had to wait out the little thing real quick, and I had to wait it out again because I was going to place another sand on me. But we got her down in just over a minute, so Purgatory is pretty decent for Dust, and it would work for most metas. Now we're fighting AOA Heimdall, which is a decent fight for her. She is kind of lacking all of the regular Mystic tropes, like Neutralize and Nullify, because of the node that's just not letting us do that. But she does have a lot of red numbers. She crits fairly often, so she does a decent bit of damage versus this Heimdall still, regardless. We're going to see about how much the SP2s do. I remember it feels pretty good. We're going to go for an SP2 right here before the Unstoppable comes back. Place a nice degen. We have a Fury and stuff. The degen's going to tick very hard for a little bit while we're waiting for him to drop specials. Then I need him to drop another SP1 here. That was a mistake. Luckily, it did not get punished. So, that was lucky, I guess. And I need him to drop an SP1 here. He does just before my Rampage falls off, and then I go for the unblockable SP2. It brings him down to 57, and we just keep repeating this process. I'm going to stop yapping here. You guys probably know how this fight works, and I'm going to be back for the Gauntlet fights. Okay, now we're doing some Grandmaster's Gauntlet, which, if you don't know, this is one of my favorite quests to showcase champions in. There's a lot of different defenders in this quest that show off the utilities of some champions. And I think in this case, for Gauntlet Terrax, it's going to be some of the tankiness a character can have, and just the ability to not have to deal with a lot of the defenders' just aggression. And, you know, there are buffs that she can also nullify here. The energy resist is really nice from Purgatory's kit, and it's kind of a speed kill as well. Like, this Terrax, you ideally want to kill as fast as possible with any character you're using. So just the fact that Purgatory, granted, has a lot of damage, it makes her pretty decent for this fight. Like, Terrax is already below 50% health. We're barely over 30 seconds into this fight. We're just spamming the power gains, and that, yeah, he's just kind of melting. So now the power gain is really going down, and then we're going to go for an SP1 here, get some regen, and then we're back to 75% health, and then another SP1, I believe, to keep getting some regen. And then, even with all that energy damage that we had to suffer, we're going to finish this fight at 85%, which is really solid. So, yeah, really nice first fight. Next up, we're going to fight Weapon X. So this is going to be an interesting little showcase of that power steal, again, that she gets versus mutants. Weapon X is very aggressive, but Purgatory likes that. Purgatory wants to be as aggressive as possible as well to keep up that rampage. So, as Weapon X drops his specials, we're going to go for the counters, assuming he's not unstoppable, and then just keep intercepting until he gets to another special attack and just play it from there. We only have the Cosmic Soul at this point, so that's not going to be very useful here because he really doesn't gain any buffs unless, like, you die, I believe. So, yeah, we're just waiting a little bit. I'm trying to fish for an intercept here, which I got right there. And now we're going to be hitting him a lot, which is going to keep his Berserk mode off. So maybe I should have considered, you know, waiting it out a little bit and slow playing just to get some of that regen off, which it looks like here I do. Now we can start doing a bit more damage because he's not regenning everything back. How I ate that SP1, I have absolutely no idea. That was pretty embarrassing, but it's whatever. We're going to go for an SP2 here. Decent little power steal. And then he drops another special. He's going to go unstoppable right here. I'm ready for it. I'm going to fish for an intercept in just a second. And then, oh, SP1 actually. Why did I SP1? I really don't know why I did that. It wasn't worth it. Maybe I just wanted to get him closer to the corner. Maybe I just wanted to stall out some time. I don't know. That felt kind of weird. Dropping the SP2 here, but he regens most of it back. Or, no, he doesn't, because he loses his regens when he loses Berserk. I actually didn't remember that. Okay, that's cool. So, here he's going to go for an SP2. Maybe. Once he decides to, then he does. He's still at a decent bit of health, because the regen during the Berserk phase is just so much that a lot of our hits are just kind of negated at that point. But I'm at 80 of the charges. He is in Berserk once more. Gonna go for a Relic here. And then we just need to do a 5-hit combo into another SP2, which, of course, he's going to get a lot of regen. He's regening 12,000 damage per second there. Or per half second, excuse me. Here, gonna wait it out. Drop another SP2. He's still at 37%. And just hope that it does a good bit of damage, which it does. And then we're gonna go back in. It's definitely not one of the fastest fights out there, but some of the other ones are going to look pretty nice. So now I'm going to eat a combo again because that felt like the great thing to do at the time. And then he's dead. So now we're going to fight Gauntlet Korg. This is going to be a really nice showing of that slow that I talked about earlier. The slow is probably my least favorite of her class souls, but this is really nice for this fight because Korg has a Mixmaster on this node. He also has Natural Unstoppable. Purgatory is a very good Korg counter in general. It would have been a nice BG's fight if I had one recorded, but I didn't. Because the energy damage on all of her hits just lets your thorns not matter. You're also not really placing any debuffs except for that one on the SP2. So, yeah, it got purified there, but at least we get an earlier slow, which is nice. So let's just say that was intentional. Fight's going to last a little bit longer than normal because I don't think I always manage the flux dispersal node as well as I could have, but it goes really well, so we're just going to let it play out, and then I'll meet you in the next fight. I probably put this at text at the beginning of the video, but some of the reason I'm cutting these voiceovers a little short is because I'm a little sick right now and I just don't feel like talking that much, but I'm going to try to break down everything I need to and then just move on to the next fight. So in this case, it's Black Panther, the newly buffed Black Panther, which I had not fought the buff version in Gauntlet until now, I believe. So this guy, you can't parry him ever. Pretty much. I believe you can when he doesn't have that matrix, but it's not like before where it was tied to an armor up buff, which Purgatory could neutralize. So this fight was actually a lot easier when you could control the armor up buff. Now that you can't, we just have to watch when we parry, which is fine. It looks like I don't even recognize that yet because I'm not even going to try to parry, but it's fine. Once that neutralize continues to go up and up and up, we're going to be preventing the buffs from Footloose, and then we also have the slow to help prevent the buffs from Footloose as well, so this fight just gets really well under control as it goes on, which is just kind of how most Purgatory fights go, both on in the quest and on in the fight. Yeah. So, the cleanse is active now from his SB1, which I probably should have anti-baited a bit, chose not to, but it's okay. It just means that we're not going to have a lot of degen damage, but we still hit pretty hard on the specials themselves and even our basics because of the fury that carries over. So not too big a deal. Looks like I'm waiting a little bit for that cleanse to fall off and anti-baiting the SB1, which I learned my lesson from. Drop this SB2 here with the fury, and then it has a nice degen. We are still in Rampage actually, but I believe it falls off right there. Still have the fury there, which I think that Fury's paused during specials, so I probably should have just dropped the SB2 immediately. We get a much less hard-hitting Fury, or degen I should say, from that special, but it's all good. We're still doing okay. And then, yeah, so Black Panther's gonna not go down there. For some reason that happened. That almost killed me. Wow, alright. Very cool. And then we're going to fight Nightcrawler, which I'm just not going to talk over again to conserve my voice. But you get the idea. You get the slow up, and then you're just kind of vibing. So I'll let Nightcrawler play out. This APOC is pretty much just a big APOC that will hurt you a lot more if you're a hero champion. Purgatory isn't, so she just utilizes all these soul effects. I really wish I had a tech one for the damage increase. I don't think I fought a tech like at all this quest. What are even the techs that you can fight in this quest? There's vision, and then my mind draws a blank. I really don't even know if there's any other techs in this quest. I think when I did my 6-star run, I had a tech soul, so maybe I just let Purgatory kill him, because in general, she's not going to be very good for that fight. So maybe that's just what I did. Either way, watch us destroy a big APOC, and I'll see you in the next one. Killmonger now, which is just a big Killmonger that wants to bleed you through the block, and he's also got polka dot power, which is very similar to the Alliance War node that Killmonger was often placed on back in the day. Polka dot power you can kind of bypass because you have passive power again of your own, and then when the degen starts ticking, then obviously that's going to be a lot more power you're gaining from polka dot itself. So we do have to try to manage his reverb as well as we can, which does get difficult at times depending on how often he wants to drop his specials and when he wants to drop the specials. But at least we get some power steal, which is going to sometimes help. And then we're going to go for the SP2 here, push him pretty high up in power, unfortunately. Power steal is going to not really benefit much there because the reverb triggered before the power steal. So now I'm just going to let this fall off. The SP2 beam is non-contact though, so that's going to put in a little work. And then we're just kind of vibing. He's going down slowly but steadily. We're still getting bled through the block a bunch, which is kind of frustrating, but I can just drop this SP2 right there because again it's non-contact, and that's kind of the rhythm of the fight. So the last fight is the Thanos boss, which I don't even think I'm going to talk over at all. I'm just kind of dying at this point. Like, I'm pretty sick, but so I'm going to conserve my voice as much as I can. But I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this showcase. If you did, if you really like Purgatory yourself, I'd love to hear about it. And then, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.